How's it going, everybody? C-RadTV back here in our video, and of course, it's time for another Detroit Lions 2026 NFL Draft Preview. So, in the last draft preview, we took a look at some of the top Day 2 defensive lineman prospects for rounds 2 and 3 of the 2026 NFL Draft class. And in this video, we're going to continue on the defensive side of the ball and take a look at some of the top Day 2 linebacker prospects for rounds 2 and 3 of the 2026 NFL Draft class. There's not really that many names actually listed for Day 2 of the draft. Like, the strength of really the linebacker class this year is Day 3 of the draft. So that will be where it's really at its strongest. But yeah, there are a few names to keep an eye on. So let's go ahead and let's take a look at some of these names. Let's go. Starting off with inside linebackers. The first one we're going to go over here, hailing out of Georgia, standing 6'1", weighing 235 pounds. We got C.J. Allen. So for CJ, he's your prototype range inside linebacker because as a patrol linebacker, his sideline-to-sideline speed closing burst is the best Georgia's produced since Roquan Smith. Lightning fast across the field, long strides, able to get from hash mark to hash mark without strain. In terms of strengths, impressive athleticism all around for his build. Awesome explosive bursts both laterally and downhill. Can quickly recover, get back in position if he bites on any fakes or has to pick up new receiving threats. Tackles without trouble, usually takes the correct angles to get to the ball carrier. In terms of weaknesses, a bit tightly wounded as an athlete who does not always shift horizontally well. Sometimes seems like he's relying more on his athleticism and reaction skills to gain a true understanding of the offense in front of him. In terms of his NFL comparison, he's been compared now retired Tampa Bay Buccaneers linebacker Kenny Young. Overall, a lot of things to like out of the CJ's game. Definitely, I think someone to keep an eye on for sure. And the final inside linebacker we're going to go over before we move on to outside linebackers. We have hailing out of LSU, standing 6'1", weighing 222 pounds. We got Harold Perkins. So for Harold's strengths, extreme athletic, sideline to sideline, cannot get much better. Range around the field's incredible. Moves so smoothly that it's hard to remember that he once had a high-level sack season. In terms of weaknesses, still, you can try to talk around it all you want, but fact of the matter is he's just too underweight for a linebacker. Already has some trouble laying down hits at the college level, can get trucked through. In terms of his NFL comparison, he's been compared to Shamar James of the Dallas Cowboys. So overall, a lot of things to like out of his game, but maybe a bit undersized. But, you know, there's a possibility that maybe he could succeed as a safety if necessary, though. Maybe someone to keep an eye on for maybe safety. Now moving on to outside linebackers, and this is actually the final linebacker we're going to talk about in this video because this outside linebacker class isn't really as deep until Day 3 on. But anyway, the one player we'll talk about here, hailing out of Oklahoma, standing 6'1", weighing 249 pounds, we got R. Mason Thomas. And no, there's no catch with the R. Mason. That's his actual name, R. Mason, because for his name backstory, his mother didn't want him to have an R name like everyone else in the family. She'll see his side on R. Mason, which is one of the more interesting backstories in the NFL draft. Now, whether he does anything to make people say it right or not is to be determined, or put respect on it is to be determined. But in terms of R. Mason, he's your prototype leadership outside linebacker because he's one of the most vocal players on the field, has the follow-me traits of a superstar, the insatiable desire to consume football knowledge from head coach Brent Venables at Oklahoma. In terms of strengths, lightning fast first step regardless of stance, easily beats tackles off the snap, makes plays in the backfield. Speed isn't limited to his first step either, shows a knack for chasing runners down behind the line. Bendy athlete, shows the ability to turn the corner tightly, has a nice slight move that combined with his bend can result in quick wins and tighter alignments. Surprisingly stout when he sets the edge. Despite a size and length disadvantage, he was able to knock Alabama's Caden Proctor back, gain extension with a forklift numerous times if you want to watch some tape there. In terms of weaknesses, though, with sub-32-inch arms, might be better suited as a hybrid outside linebacker rather than a full-time edge rusher. Extensive injury history, multiple ankle sprains, including a surgery that didn't fix the problem. Can play a bit out of control as a pass rusher, going at blockers without a plan in mind, stalling out early. Limited counter rush moves, doesn't win with his first move, typically ends up stalling out. Arm length has led to occasional routes where he struggled to disengage with the offensive lineman. In terms of NFL comparison, he's been compared to now retired San Francisco 49ers linebacker D. Ford. Overall, a lot of things to like out of his game. Has great leadership, but, you know, some injury history that has to be looked at here, but maybe someone possibly to keep an eye on if he can stay healthy. And that'll wrap it up for this Detroit Lions 2026 NFL Draft Preview. So even though this linebacker class isn't really as deep in day 2, there are a few interesting names to keep an eye on for sure. That could possibly look for it. That could possibly be interesting names to keep an eye on here. But yeah, definitely a few interesting names to keep an eye on. But yeah, that'll wrap it up for this draft preview. So for the next draft preview, we will be taking a look at the top day 2 defensive back and safety prospects. This time we're really going to dive into the safeties. And now will be the end of the day 2 portions before we move on to the day 3 portions. But anyway, that'll wrap it up here. That's all I'm going to say. And I'll see you all whatever I make next. I'm out.